Stroke is one of Australia's biggest killers. It kills more women than breast cancer and more men than prostate cancer. Tony Finneran of Padstow is a stroke survivor, and he's with us on FM 100.9 to tell his inspiring story.
Other medication, and so that gave me, I couldn't hold down fluids, I couldn't hold no meals. And my wife had suggested that, if I couldn't hold a meal or a glass of water by 3 o'clock, then she was going to call the ambulance. I felt I was, unwell, but I wasn't that unwell that the ambulance needed to be called. Anyway, I couldn't hold their fluid, so I got, Amanda got away and called the ambulance. So the ambulance, when they came up, they actually agreed with my philosophy that I was sick, but I wasn't sick enough to take the hospital on Easter Sunday. They got heaps more better things to do.
Oh gosh!
Part of this condition with the change of medication, I couldn't find words, and the words to finish off a sentence, the word I was looking for were side effects. Yes. And almost simultaneously, Amanda walked behind the ambulance crew who were looking after me, and pretty much all at the same time, Amanda said the word a side effect. So I did a one finger point at her, saying, to me, that was the word I was after, and at the same time, the ambulance crew asked me to sit up, and that's the last thing I can remember.
Oh my goodness!
That I get to tell the story because my, Amanda sort of took it as all your fault to call the ambulance, and
yes.
I was just looking for the final words, So
yes.
That's how the journey began. I went to ED with that was a 35-minute seizure, so I still don't know what a stroke actually feels like.
So you didn't have any pain or anything like that?
No, for me, I was 3 clots in the back of my brain.
Oh, right,
and
okay.
So I went to ED. I had a seizure, 35-minute seizure, grand mal seizure. And then from that point, the ambulance guys had no option but to take me. And then went to ED at Bankstown. I qualified for blood clotting, clot busting agents.
Yes.
And from that point, they... whether the mixture's right or wrong, I'm not sure, but that the clot-busting agents cause a bleed, and so
yes.
I woke up with a stroke, and I know the repercussions of a stroke, and
yes.
Happy to divulge you the best information I can offer.
Yes.
But no one wants to be through the journey.
No, indeed. So there's sort of no history in your family of people with stroke or anything, is there?
Mum woke up dead one morning, so. She just didn't, wake up. She had her hand on her chin, still, watching TV.
Yes.
And so she passed away, sometimes in the night.
Oh my goodness.
Watching obviously TV. So
yes.
we didn't put an autopsy or didn't request anything. Presume it was a stroke. She didn't seem any pain, so it was pretty, very quick.
Yes.
And dear old dad died of lung cancer. So
yes.
Mum, was probably the of course, and there's definitely a higher risk with previous family
yes.
history. So,
yes.
But I think for me, I was in the Army, 37-year reservist, subject to twice annual fitness assessments.
Yes.
And once you're over 50, you've got to have a medical annually.
Yes.
And so I was fine, all that. So there's no indications of a stroke or clotting. I've got an underlying blood condition called polycythemia rubra vera. And that's clot forming, and so that the risk of a stroke or heart attack cause a clot was higher with that illness. But I wasn't expecting anything to happen. But
yes.
Life was good, and then
yes.
it changed.
Yes. How long did you, right from when you had this episode, how long till you made some good progress? Would you say, and you thought, oh gosh, I'm good. I'm on the mend here.
Oh well, the first month I was fully paralysed. So 3.5 weeks in ICU. I basically couldn't move my eyes. That's the only thing I could move.
Yes.
Couldn't communicate. I was intubated, so all the plumbing was down my throat.
Yes.
So I was pretty. The first month I was off, just unable to react. But I can remember my first toe wriggle, so that was probably 4 weeks after the event, and that first toe wriggle gave me hope.
Yes.
So if I can move my toe,
yes.
Fingers crossed, I
yes.
can move other things. Then that led to a foot movement, led to my left arm coming back on fairly well and able to move, and wasn't affected on the left side. The right side's a bit dodgy.
Oh, gosh.
And I lost my peripheral vision, but Yeah.
Has that come back now, your peripheral vision?
No, no,
it's
gone,
not.
yeah.
Oh, gosh. Yes.
Yeah, and part of that is I was a heavy vehicle driver, bus driver,
Yes.
coach driver, salesman.
Yes.
And I had 40 years of fun. Probably did more driving with the army. I was in transport with the army.
Yes.
And then that difficult driving, all that aspects of
yes,
all driving.
definitely.
I probably had more opportunity to drive. So I had my 40 years of fun with the licence, and then it was just time to give it up. And
Yes.
with the peripheral vision, if I had I can't see people come left to right. So if I knowing they had weakness, then if I
Yes.
hurt somebody, it'd be hard to live for yourself.
Oh,
So,
definitely, yes.
So it's easy to just give up the licence and walk.
Yes.
Walk or get taxis or public transport.
Yes.
Public transport in Sydney's excellent. So.
Mentally, was that a big transformation for you?
Mentally?
Yes.
I think part of my core was transport, and that Latin is
Yes.
par on array, which in English is equal to task. And so I was a senior soldier rank in the army, and so I was mission focused with that problem-solving mission focus. So
Yes.
it was really part of the thing. I never. I think it's very easy to get to the dark side of a stroke.
Yes, I imagine it is. Yes.
Things like that go right. Your whole your life's been taken away from it.
Yes.
Your plans with holidays and
Yes.
things like that.
Yes.
But for me, it was just it was a time thing. So
Yes.
if I could do what was instructed, I had very, very wonderful people in rehab at Bankstown Hospital. Just superb. I had.
And I should imagine wondrul support from your family too.
Yeah, family was fantastic. Yeah, a little daughter. I got two daughters in there, Brie, and the two son-in-laws are magic, and grandkids and all that stuff. So
Yes.
just I'm a very lucky person to
Yes.
have the role. Hard work, and not
Yes.
saying it was an easy journey, but
Yes.
I had to learn to walk again. I had to learn to talk again.
Yes.
And do all those exercises and things like that. So it was a bit of a journey, but it was good fun.
As I said before in the intro, you're a real inspiration, I think. You really are, Tony. Now, as a result, they say out of bad things, something good happens. And I guess this is in your creative side now. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, the creative side, actually, I was in the bus industry for probably 45 odd years. And then what I've done since the stroke is I had plenty of time to think. So I've written 7 books. I'm in the 8th book at the moment. And I've written pictorial histories about the elements of the bus industry, so Sydney buses. And when the stroke occurred, it was 2014. That was when the change of company liveries went out the door.
Yes.
And every bus is the same blue and white chevron, the Waratah colour they call it.
Yes.
And that was pretty boring and uninspiring.
Yes.
But all the family companies, all the histories went down. We're going out the door within a certain a limited time. So for
Yes.
5 years, the first book I had a thought of. I had various bus photos from. Bit sad, but from my career with the buses, and
Yes.
so that I had resources to do a Sydney book and capture this history pictorially before
Yes.
This got too late.
Yes.
And we did the first book, and then that was on Sydney buses. The second book was in all our advertising buses. The third was the touring coaches,
Yes.
Australian touring coaches.
Yes.
Fourth is the long distance bus express.
Yeah.
Five
Have these
was
books
Melbourne,
taken you a long time to do, or?
I've been able to do them pretty much one a year. So
That's
I
great.
start
Yeah.
in maybe November.
Yes.
To get prepared, and
Yes.
then, from there, the hard work starts from probably late January to pretty May-ish, June-ish.
Yes.
And then we do the marketing aspect from that. It's
Yes.
all self-published works.
Yes.
And then
I suppose you've got plenty of material by the sound of things to sort of keep
Yeah.
on and doing more books,
Well, it's interesting because I think the first book I had about 7 other contributors help me.
Wow.
And then now with the number 7 and number 7's been printed, but I'm
Yes.
up to about 70 people wanting to contribute and
Oh,
offer.
that's fabulous.
So we do as a fundraiser for the Stroke Foundation.
Yes.
And to date we've raised over $43,000 for the foundation. So
That's
it's just
fabulous.
amazing one person can make a difference to the world, you know.
Yes, yes, indeed. Yes, and you certainly have. That's for sure. Now, I believe that you're a member of the Stroke Foundation Consumer Council as well.
Yes, yeah.
Yes. What does that involve? You're doing?
It's a meeting probably 3 or 4 times a year, give or take, 3 or 4 times a year.
Yes.
COVID was times that we're doing Zoom meetings, but it's trying to get the best practice for stroke, best education for stroke to available clinicians. So we're not medical, we're not clinical.
No.
But we have have lived the experience. So that lived experience we can offer.
Yes.
What the hardships are, what the expectation for a stroke survivor may be.
Yes.
Particularly the carers. The carers are so important to.
Definitely.
They've probably got the worst part of the deal as far as a stroke survivor, because they've got to look at you.
Yes.
You know, I was certainly plumbed up and unconscious for 3.5 weeks, and my family must have been thinking about what's the solution. It's going to be full-time care,
dear.
All those things you don't want to think about.
And I believe you run a stroke recovery group in Bankstown as well, and you volunteer at Bankstown Hospital's stroke ward as well too.
Yeah, the Bankstown Stroke Support Group, so that we've Resi Workers Club, they host us, and we're actually now a sub-club of Resi Workers. So they're actually brilliant for their support that we get from the workers. It's just amazing, really amazing. Can't talk highly enough for their dedication to us as a small group.
Yes.
The volunteer work is just fun. I'm on local hospital level. I'm on probably 4 or 5 committees on Bankstown Hospital. There's a thing called Transform Your Experience, which is South West Sydney. It's an initiative by South West Sydney. It's Liverpool, Bowral, Fairfield, Campbelltown, Bankstown Hospital.
You're a very busy man. Is there enough hours in the day for you?
Find some time, But yeah, it's good, very good. But these transforming experiences, trying to make it patient-centred care or person-centred care, and trying to get the person to take charge of their things. Some people are comfortable doing that. Other people want to be led by the clinicians.
Exactly. Yes.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
Now, perhaps we can sort of tell the listeners a little bit about the facts about stroke. If you'd just like to go through those for us.
Well, the stroke the most common symptoms are an acronym called FAST, which is F for face.
Yes.
So the face represents a droopy smile or an eyelid that's drooped with muscles weakness, or the tongue might be bent from one side to the other side. So usually if the right hand side of the brain's affected, then the left hand side's the side that deficit shows, vice versa.
Yes.
So that's face, that's the first one. So I treat it as baseball strikes, so you don't need 3 strikes in the out, you just need 1 strike.
Yes.
And so face, there's one. Arms is the acronym, so FAST is the acronym, so A is for arms. That may not necessarily be arms. You've got to raise both arms up to, signify you haven't got a stroke. One side will be weak, but it also could be limbs. So you might be your lower legs, or legs might be affected, and that's the ambulance will ask you to raise arms, and if you raise arms, then they'll ask you to raise legs.
Yes.
And that's the A. So A is for arms.
Yes.
S is for speech. So you get slurred speech, but or you can't understand the person what they're saying, and mumble speech and things like that, or just incognito, where they can't communicate at all.
Yes.
But they're fully comprehending what you're saying to them. So they might be able to understand you, but they can't communicate back. So you've got to find another method to communicate. So non-verbal, so it might be can you blink your eyes? You might be 2 blinks for yes. 1 blink might just be a natural blink.
Yes.
2 blinks for yes. If they can't do 2 blinks, they can't do 3 blinks for no.
Yes.
So just that's a signal. It might be squeeze. If you can squeeze my hand,
yes.
You just got to then pick which hand's affected. So the weaker hand obviously will be less weak, but the stronger hand will be right. So just some sort of communication.
Yes.
And T, that's S is for speech, and then T is time. Time is critical. At the moment, it's our 4-hour window to give the doctors the best opportunity. So really the answer is to think fast, act fast.
Yes.
And if you can think fast and act fast, and acting fast is called AAA.
Yes.
So a lot of people will try and sleep off their tiredness of fatigue or whatever, and that's the pretty worst thing. You lose 8 hours. So the window is currently about 4 hours. That may extend in time, but currently it's 4 hours. And
that's not an awful lot of time, is it, to get something done?
It's critical, because the ambulance may take your closest hospital, maybe Sutherland, for example, or Auburn Hospital.
Yes.
but that's not a stroke ward. So
Yes.
they may take you to Bankstown, for example, which is a stroke centre.
Yes.
And so the ambulance will fast track the ambulance.
Yes.
Get to the right place at the quickest time. It might be 15 minutes long by the time you get to Auburn. Or
Yes.
if you drive someone, help you think you're doing the right thing, but helping your mate out.
Yes.
Or your friend, a colleague, or family member.
Yes.
You've got to find car parking spaces.
Exactly.
You've got
Yes.
to go through emergency.
Yes.
Get the triage nurse to do the paper triage.
Sure.
The ambulance just gets you fast tracked in the system.
Yes.
They're responsible to have you up to the point of CT scan. So you stay on the trolley or the gurney to CT scan. Then once you move off to the CT scan, then their duties released. So
Yes.
if they cannulise you, so the door to needle time is well improved. I think Bankstown's roughly 14 minutes now for
Yes.
door to needle, because the ambulance do half the job.
Yes.
It's just brilliant, and the effort to go on this thing. So
Yes.
clot basing agents, if you qualify, some things you can't qualify. If you're on
No.
blood thinners, for example,
Yes.
you may not
Yes.
qualify for these solutions. But if you do qualify, clot busting agents and
Yes.
or clot retrieval.
Yes.
So clot retrieval is done by Liverpool or RPA. Randwick, not RPA, Randwick.
Yes.
Yeah, Prince Wales and Randwick.
Yes.
And so the two doctor teams share the responsibilities for both hospitals.
Sure.
And so you get clot retrieval. They basically go into a major blood vessel in your brain and
Yes.
retrieve the clot, pull the clot out. And for me, it was 13 weeks from go to woe.
Wow.
These guys are probably in for 2 days with clot retrieval, just waiting for the wound to heal,
Yes.
and then they're out. And
Yes.
no deficencies. It's
Yes.
just fantastic what
Yes.
the treatments are. So
Yes.
it's exciting for that.
Yes.
That wasn't available in my time, but
No. Yes,
good on
indeed.
them, so.
Now, would you like to go through the facts about strokes and facts and figures for us?
Well, I think 27,000 people in Australia, over 27,000, suffer a stroke every year. It was certainly in 2020 that was the number. In 1 in 4 people generally globally have a stroke. Australia's we're a little bit less on the ratio because we've got a better lifestyle and better health services available to us.
Yes.
Generally it affects women more than men, but half the reason for that is that women live longer than men.
Yes.
And so they're prone to later life stroke.
Yes.
It's not subjected to like people perceive it as an older age group risk, and that's certainly a higher risk element.
Yes.
But there's babies in utero have stroke.
Yes, indeed.
And so
yes.
every age, I just met a guy yesterday, he was 15, he had his stroke, and I met girls in Melbourne, students in Melbourne doing the HSC who have a stroke as well.
Oh, dear.
University students. So it's just doesn't discriminate at all.
No.
And where we perceive it as certainly older age group, it's
not.
No,
No.
postcode in Australia has been
No.
unaffected by stroke. So it's brilliant. So that the treatment for hospitals, like 1.9 million cells die in your brain if you can't get treatment quickly. So the longer you protract the time, that's the brain cells disappearing, and just that also combines with a lack of opportunities for doctors to give you the best possible.
That is something to get your brain round, isn't it? 1.9 million brain cells every minute.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's scary.
It is indeed.
And I think different parts of your brain get affected. All the various lobes have responsibility for motor control,
Yes.
hand movements, eye function,
Yes.
vision, speech. And depending what part of your brain gets affected, everybody has a different stroke. And my preconception of stroke was you have a stroke, but
Yes.
knowing the community now, stroke community, everybody has a slightly different stroke and all different side effects from it. So a good friend of mine, he had aphasia, so when he had his stroke, he couldn't read, just all the
Yes.
communication ability was gone.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just scary.
I noticed one of the facts here, without action by 2050, it's predicted that the number of first ever strokes experienced by Australians annually will increase to 50,600. or one every 10 minutes. Oh my goodness. That's
And
awful.
the implication of that is cost to community.
Yes.
We then become sort of non-taxpayers, and so everybody's got to contribute to
Yes.
to subsidise people. So it's in our interest to try and really reduce the effect of stroke. And there's 80% of stroke is preventable.
Yes.
With a few minor lifestyle changes. So
Yes.
we can go through those if you like.
Certainly, yes, please do.
So probably the biggest risk factors is you know your numbers. So that's the
Yes.
consultation with GP.
Yes.
So he's looking for blood pressure numbers.
Yes.
What the two levels of blood.
Yes.
I forget what they're called now. But blood levels, sugar levels, diabetes, cholesterol levels, and so if you're on top of your numbers,
Yes.
then the doctors, and that's probably through a blood test is the easiest way to find that out.
Yes.
And then that actually gives the patient a really clear view of what's the priorities. Do
Yes.
am I going to suffer a stroke? Am I going to go diabetes? And
Yes.
diabetes complicates everything. So
Yes, exactly.
It's not good. So first of all, you really know your numbers. Get a GP check as quick as you can. If you haven't had one for a while,
Yes.
please go on. If anybody can do any. If we can save a life today,
Yes, indeed.
that's really probably the best way to do it.
Yes.
Things like alcohol, reduction of alcohol. It's two standard drinks. Probably 4 days a week is the ideal.
Yes.
A couple of rest days in the meantime.
Yes.
Good weight, healthy weight. BMI is reduced and you're not overweight. Smoking. If you can reduce the smoking, you get an immediate effect from smoking. Then within the year, it's almost negligible as far as the health factor goes.
Yes.
Eat well. Diet and things like that. So people, we're talking about salt reduction,
Yes.
sugar reduction. So salt is a really key factor because salt adds flavour. If you watch MasterChef, for
Yes.
example, without
Yes.
promoting
Yes.
the show, but they layer tons of salt on everything.
Yes.
Why? Because it tastes great.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so it's like our job is to offer alternatives. So how do you add flavour?
Yes.
Maybe lemon juice, lime juice,
Yeah.
chili, herbs and spices.
Yes.
Different fruit skins and
Yes.
just various ways of adding flavour. So if you
Yes.
can just rethink that equation rather than adding salt.
Yes. How about you personally? Did you find you had to modify your diet very much?
No, my diet was, I think, reasonably okay. I was probably, I was on the road all the time as a salesman, so you tend to do fast foodish
Yes.
more than probably should have.
Yes.
But it's just a fact of life. You had, with the buses, you had to go through, 6-hour window between
Yes,
9
of
and 12,
course.
because otherwise
Yes.
the owners are all doing school runs and things like that.
Yes.
You can't get to them, so you have
Yes.
to be peak and then eat afterwards. But I didn't change too much, and my wife now is obviously geared up for the best food selection that avail and eat fresh. Is
Yes.
obviously no processed foods. The labels, the labels and
Yes.
cans and
Yes.
how much salt. And one of the peanut butters is a salted version versus non-salted version. And
Yes.
that's the non-salted version is 700 times less salt. 700 times less salt
Oh, gosh.
than the salted version. So
Yeah.
just things like really
Sure.
minor changes and subtle changes
Yes.
that convert exercise. If you can get a 30-minute walk activity,
Yes.
might be broken up to 15-minute walks a day. For a survivor, if you're a stroke survivor, if you can walk out the litter box,
Yes.
20 metres,
Yes.
and you're fatigued, and that's certainly understandable, and a lot of people have that.
Yes.
But next day you might be able to get to the driveway.
Yes.
Next day you might get to the next corner.
Exactly.
Just that this mission focus and
Yes.
step by step, and just small meet long-term, short-term goals, long-term goals.
Yes.
And hopefully everything's back to normal. So
Yes,
it's fantastic.
yes, great. Look, Tony, thank you very much for talking with us. I really do appreciate you coming in. As I said, I'm mindful that you've got to go and have some physio and so forth. Would you like to give out some details about some numbers for if people would like to get more information?
I think just probably the easiest way, just go to the Stroke Foundation, probably through the website, the webpage, that would be good. Stroke Line is available, and it's also an Enable Me, which is a general information page for the Stroke Foundation create.
Sure.
So the Stroke Line is 1-800-STROKE, if you can call that.
Yes.
The really probably the most important number if you think of anybody that meets the symptoms, so face, arms and speech and time. Face, arms, speech, if they got one of those, the ambulance would be rather called for a false diagnosis and not called.
Sure, yes.
So 000 is so important to stress that requirement here.
Yes.
You might get a bill at the end of it, but it's going to save your life. You can pay the bill.
Exactly. Look, Tony, thank you so much for coming in. Wish you good health, obviously, and good luck with all your creative pursuits. You're writing of your books. May you write many more.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks, John. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Tony.